We're always told that to be truly creative, you need absolute freedom. The blank page, the open-ended brief, unlimited time. But what if that's not just wrong? What if it's the very thing that quietly kills originality? Today, we're dissecting a fundamental law of creativity, why limits, pressure, and all those restrictions are what actually make great ideas possible.
So this is the core signal we're decoding. This one statement, it goes completely against our romantic ideas about creativity, right? We think of it as this fragile little thing that needs to be protected in a big open space. But the reality, when you actually look at how it behaves, is that creativity is a system that responds to force. It needs something to push against. And that right there, that brings us to the freedom paradox. It's a pretty simple question, but it's a deep one. Why does the very freedom we chase so often lead to stalled projects and generic ideas, while really tight constraints seem to produce focused, original work? And this isn't about discipline or talent, it's about the physics of the system itself. Okay, so let's get into the mechanics of it. We're going to stop treating creativity like some kind of mysterious art and start treating it like a system with predictable forces. Once you understand how boundaries actually focus energy, you start to see that constraints aren't the enemy of creativity at all. They're a crucial part of its engine. All right, our first signal is something called search space collapse. Think about it. A blank canvas gives you infinite possibilities, which sounds amazing, but it's completely overwhelming for our brains. You end up just dipping your toe into a million different shallow ideas. But a constraint, let's say you're told to only use 3 colors, it collapses that infinite space. It just wipes most of the options off the table and forces your energy to go deep, to find clever solutions within a tiny, well-defined area. The second signal is commitment forcing. When you have way too many options, you get hit with this kind of creative paralysis. Every choice you could make feels like you're losing all the other choices you didn't pick. So what do? You delay. You keep your options open, and the project never really gets off the ground. A hard constraint, like a fixed budget or a specific platform, forces you to commit. It basically makes the decision for you, and real original work only ever starts after a commitment is made. And our third signal is accelerated pattern recognition. We have this idea that pressure is bad for creativity, but that's just a total misunderstanding of its function. See, pressure isn't there to help you generate ideas. It's a filter that helps you select them. A tight deadline forces your brain to rapidly sort through all the noise, find the strongest patterns, and be absolutely ruthless about throwing away everything else. It doesn't create the breakthrough, it just reveals it by burning away all the fluff. So, we've seen how this works inside our own heads. But it doesn't stop there. This system scales up and plays out in the external world too. Because in reality, constraints are selection pressures. They are the very mechanisms that determine which ideas live and which ideas die. This table just lays it out perfectly. Look at this. A tight budget doesn't just mean you have less money. It actively selects for resourcefulness, and it selects against unnecessary complexity. A hard deadline selects for decisiveness and pushes against endless exploration. These aren't just obstacles. They're objective filters that are actively shaping what you create. So, what's the cost of getting this wrong? What happens when we ignore this whole system and just fight for infinite options, endless time, and total freedom? Well, the outcome is predictable, and it has absolutely nothing to do with your talent. Misunderstanding the system leads to failure, not because you're a bad creator, but because you are literally working against the fundamental forces of creativity. And you see these outcomes everywhere. Stalled progress, because you can't decide which path to take. Generic ideas, because you never fully commit to one of them. And execution that's always put off until tomorrow. This is the quiet graveyard where so many brilliant ideas end up, killed not by a lack of talent, but by the absence of a clarifying constraint. This all brings us to a really crucial pivot. If most creators see limits as the enemy, how do the absolute best performers think about them? Well, they operate with a completely different mental model. They don't just tolerate constraints, they actively seek them out and use them. You can see the two mindsets right here, side by side. The novice sees a constraint as a threat, a cage, and they fight for more freedom. The elite creator, on the other hand, sees it as a tool, like a focusing lens. They don't just accept limits, they actually design the right ones for the project. They don't resist pressure, they leverage it to force clarity. Okay, so now that we have that framework, let's turn this analysis on ourselves. It's time to apply these signals to your own process, and I have 3 direct questions to help you do it.
First one, what limit could help you? And I'm not asking what limit is holding you back. I'm asking what self-imposed constraint, a tighter deadline, a smaller budget, a stricter format, could actually force a breakthrough on a project where you feel stuck right now.
Second question, where are you stuck choosing? I want you to identify that one specific place in your work where you're delaying a decision just to keep your options open. That's your point of creative paralysis. What would it take to just make a choice and move on? And finally, what problem sharpens you? Instead of avoiding pressure, think about which kind of problem, which difficult, constrained challenge truly brings out your best, most focused thinking. That's not a burden. That's your catalyst. And this really gets to the heart of what we do. Great ideas rarely fail because of a lack of talent. They fail because their creators simply misunderstand the system that is judging them. Here at Creativity Signals Atlas, we map these hidden forces to reveal how originality actually survives in the real world,